Polygirl really is not me. It's a brand. Started as a need to acknowledge the experience of Pasefika women living outside of the islands. Girls were walking in and saying, "Oh my gosh, that's me." And I remember somebody laughed at me, saying, "Oh my gosh, she's wearing bell bottoms." And again, fresh off the boat. Now that I'm out in public, I have an identity crisis. I didn't know how to say no. My name is actually Stella. I didn't know what brands meant. You silence yourself because nobody understands you.
There are times where I am sitting at my seat and go, this is not who I am.
It's okay to grow. Two things can be right. I never thought I was going to own a apparel company. There are days you are questioning if this thing is going to work. Being able to proudly wear it, let people see you, inviting the opportunity for people to ask so you can represent ourselves correctly.
Talofa dear Suga, and welcome to another episode. In this episode, I sit down with Alice Stella Heck, the owner and founder of Polygirl, an apparel brand created to honor the lived experience of Pasefika women while navigating and still wanting to be seen, connected, and proud of who we are. This is a heart-to-heart conversation. We talk about our lived experience, what it means to be rooted in culture and move through spaces where you're learning to carry your identity with confidence. We talk about her pivot from a corporate role into entrepreneurship, how her background in marketing shaped Polygirl, and her thoughts on branding, identity, and building something from the ground up. I also share a vulnerable season as I navigate through an unexpected career change and the real time lessons that come with figuring out things as you go. And of course, we touch on self care and some of the simple practices to stay grounded while building, growing, and becoming. If you've ever wanted to start something, represent your culture more boldly, find your people, or you're in the middle of a life change yourself, I hope this conversation finds you right where you are. So, with that, let's get into it. Hello, Stella. So before we start off, we just like to talk about who is Polygirl.
Yeah, thank you. I wish you all the best with this podcast. I know you're just
you.
starting, so I appreciate you reaching out and including me as one of your initial guests. To speak about Polygirl, Polygirl really is, it's not me. It's a brand that started as a need that I found to acknowledge the experience of us Pacifica women who are living outside of the islands. So Polygirl came out of, in terms of name, came out, I guess, by accident because I was in the corporate world and working in marketing and got laid off. And so as I was looking to figure out what my next steps, naturally transitioning into a consultant in marketing, I was working on my marketing website and I saw the red hibiscus that you're wearing. And then I put the words Polygirl on it. And then at that very moment, exact very moment, it became not me wanting to continue building out a consulting business, but rather it became something about like acknowledging this experience that I'm having, that I know that a lot of my other Pacifica sisters are having of navigating a space that's not really built for us, whether it's United States, New Zealand, Australia, UK. There's a specific knowing of who we are that aren't really acknowledged outside of our community. And that's really what's driving this brand.
That's super awesome. And I think it's a great initiative to have. What do you think makes it so different from what's already out there?
There's a lot of brands out there, and we recognize just a few of them just because they are who they are, Nike, Adidas, you name them. But I think it's the unspoken experience and the belonging that we have to our community that isn't really visible. So when we go out about our daily work, for the most part, we're going into rooms where there isn't anybody else there. They might look like us, but they don't know that experience. And so that's what this brand is attempting to communicate and bring us together in that experience that's really unsaid, unspoken, and it's really just a belonging that we have. And so when you see the words Polygirl and you see the hibiscus, it's an immediate like, oh my gosh, that's me. And so we've seen that over and over in some of the events that we're going into, especially the girls in their like early teens were walking in and immediately say, I get emotional about this all the time. Walk in and say, oh my gosh, that's me. Right? So that's what it is. It's just it's an unspoken language of who we are and acknowledging our experiences here for us in America.
I love that. Speaking of hibiscus, I always felt like that's a good Samoan thing just because I don't know where it ties to, but I can only think, and again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have this thing with Telesal where it was just like it was almost sacred. You could like it was almost taboo to wear the red hibiscus because if not, you're gonna get slapped by one of them or blah blah blah.
Right.
And so that's on the Samoan side. So a little bit more about your background. You grew up in the Tongan community. So what is it like with the red hibiscus? Because that's my experience, but I'm curious to know for your experience.
I am not familiar with any taboo around wearing red hibiscus in Tonga. But then again, I'm not the cultural expert in that. But it's interesting that you mentioned the red hibiscus. And I'll go back to my Tongan background in a little bit. But I'm married to a Samoan. And his grandma from
Mhm.
Samoa had several hibiscus plants in front of her house. And they're from Southern California. And she was the ultimate Polynesian grandma because before she left the house, she had to have a muumuu on. She had big jangling earrings on, and she'd walk out. And the first thing she'd do before she leaves the property was break off of hibiscus,
Mm.
right? And put it in her hand. So she had orange, yellow, red, all of them. But that was her thing. I think for us Pacific Islanders, we all identify with that, right? Whether it's our grandma or if our aunts or us ourselves, we wear it. But in terms of
Yes.
being taboo, I don't remember that being a taboo within at least what I was brought up as.
So I'm wearing your earlier designs, which I
Yeah.
really love. But the funny thing is, it has on here Pula Vinaka. Is there
Yeah.
an association, or was that just kind of like you just pick islands to kind of create the certain styles of your clothing?
Oh, I love that question. So that is our logo, and that's definitely one of our earlier renditions. Like, so
Hmm.
the flower is different, a little bit different now. We're a year into building this business, and so it's changed a few times. So we're representing all Pacific Islanders. Yes, we're Polynesian, but we have ties to Micronesia. We have ties to Melanesia. Me, for example, having different family members that have lived abroad in different Pacific Islands. But I was actually born in Fiji. So my parents were there working. I did not live there very long. We returned back to Tonga, and I was in Tonga until I was about 10 years old before we came to the US. Yes, so I'm inclusive, including all of the islands as we grow and designing more around not just Polynesian islands, but also the other groups of islands.
And that's a pretty cool. Like, I don't know if people knew that you actually were born in Fiji. And so, growing up in Tonga, what are some of your fondest memories?
Running around barefoot. And so we talk about brands here. There wasn't such a thing in Tonga. I mean, you wear what you got, and a lot of it was secondhand, handed to you, whether it came from abroad or within your own family. I think my fondest memory is just being able to run around barefoot, just going outside and playing in a dress. If it was hide and go seek, and again, just running around without any shoes, maybe some slippers once in a while, but
Yep.
it was really running around barefoot. And I think that's really important because I think a lot of folks are starting to go back to that. You don't have to be from the islands, but a lot of people are starting to practice touching the ground with your feet, going and walking on the beach or just going outside and touching the grass. I do think it does settle you.
I think it creates some form of connection to the earth that
It
just
does.
makes you feel more as one.
Yes. I was just saying, you forget certain things when you are outside of what's normal to you. We forget because life is busy. We
Mhm.
go to work, we raise kids, we are trying to, put food on the table. And sometimes our cultural practices are, for the moment, are not thought about. And so the
Mm.
hope is that, this brand sort of reminds us of that experience. But similar to your comment about touching and be connecting to the earth is we forget that we can actually just go outside and put our feet on the ground and immediately feel a certain grounding.
Yeah, I agree. I've been more into that as well. The ocean is where you can actually raise your vibrations. And it's kind of interesting because we're so surrounded by it.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we take those things for granted, especially in today's era. And especially if you're not living in the islands, you get bombarded by so many different things. And I love that we're able to create these things to remember this is who you are. Like,
Yeah.
this is where you belong. So, what was the transition like when you moved from Tonga out here to the US? Going from someone who's been barefoot, who's been free, what was your experience then moving out here to California?
Northern California, different, total fob. And fresh
That's
off of
hard to believe. That's just hard
well,
to believe.
Total fob. The good thing is, in Tonga, you learn English. So
Mhm.
not that you're proficient in it, but when you come to the US, you have some knowledge of English. So it was a little easier to adapt to the school system, knowing a little bit of English. But it was definitely different. There's a lot of moments that I think back. I was just talking to my son about this earlier, about what it was like. Something that really felt different was, we're talking about clothes, and a brand is going to school, and this was in the 80s when everybody's wearing skinny jeans. Guess jeans were in. Everybody had to have the brand, but so skinny they had to zip it up at the bottom of the ankle. So I remember coming, and my aunt took me to a Goodwill store to buy
Mhm.
clothes. And to me, clothes didn't mean anything. You put something on your body so you can go out in public. I bought some bell-bottom jeans, really big flared bell-bottom jeans. And I remember wearing it to school, not thinking anything of it. And somebody laughed at me. I remember this girl saying, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, she's wearing bell-bottoms." And I go, "What are bell-bottoms?" Again, fresh off the boat. But at that very moment, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, there is something that, like, I have to wear certain clothes, right? Because in Tonga
Mhm.
and a lot of the islands, you wear uniforms to school.
Yes.
And if you don't wear uniforms to school, you're wearing certain politasis or politahas to church. So you have specific uniforms for specific events. Where here you can wear whatever. So that was a very interesting moment right there, because I didn't know what brands meant. And I started paying attention, and everybody in school had the little triangle at the time. So I'm like, oh, so that's what you're supposed to wear. But back then that's an example of how different it was.
Which is kind of interesting. Do you think that has changed or our perception of it has evolved? I'm thinking back when I was younger, it was just almost like when someone came from America or from New Zealand or Australia, you're just like, oh my gosh, you're so in awe of them.
Yeah.
But then I feel like with the internet at our hands, it's now become a space where everyone has some form of access to it.
I think you're right. With the internet, they know what life is like. I mean, obviously, they're not experiencing it. They see what life could look like.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's hyped up, or maybe negative, or maybe positive, but they could at least have an understanding what I thought of America before I came to America. Because in the islands, we only watched Bruce Lee movies or army movies. And so I thought that it was well, I don't know about now, but I thought it was a police state. I thought that there were a lot of like, oh my gosh, this is so weird that this is just happening. We're coming to mind right now. I thought everybody ran around or walked around with like the army around you, right? With like full gear, guns drawn was what it was, what my perception was of America.
You
Isn't
watched
that
too much
interesting?
Rambo movies back then.
I know. But isn't that interesting, given what's happening right now, right? And
Mhm.
I'd actually I never connected the two. But my sister came here from New Zealand. She came to a family function. And that is actually their perception, right, of what's happening in America right now. Because they see the news in the areas. And so they're like, oh, we let it all die down before we come and visit from New Zealand. But I'm like, well, we actually live in outside of San Francisco. I don't see a whole lot of that, but that's what they see on the media, and that's what's being portrayed.
Even for myself, I'm just like, this is what's happening in the world, and I'm almost afraid to go outside and explore the world. But then it's like, I think I'm okay. Which I also thought about what you said in terms of uniform because it's so true. Because you go to school, you have a school uniform. Even when we have family gatherings, like a funeral or anything, you're wearing something that's a uniform. Like
Yes,
it's so then you know you're a part of the family. You're like wearing the same. I think it's out here too, right? You just make really good, nice T-shirts and you wear it around and just like, yes,
yes,
this is my family. So
yes.
I love it because is that the idea behind the brand? I mean, not to have a uniform, but you know.
No, not necessarily. The brand is more for us to identify each other, right? And
Yes, yes.
and just know I know your experience because you know mine, and we
Mhm.
know each other's, and maybe not intimate, but I have a sense of what it's like to be you, right? I have a sense of what it's like to be a Fijian in America. I have a sense of what it's like to be Guamanian in America, right? I don't
Yep.
live the life, but I have a sense just because we're very communal in the Pacific Islands, right? Because even going to a funeral, in Samoa,
Mhm.
you're wearing white. In Tonga, we're all wearing black. So yes, we're very uniform.
I think it's just being a part of something, which is important. So this episode is supposed to be out the week of March 1st. And so that is Women's History Month. What's something you wish more women gave themselves permission to do?
Oh my gosh. I wish somebody asked me that in my 20s, because I'm actually asking it myself now. I'm now in my 50s, but in our culture, we're taught to be very thankful. right? And we are. But I wish we were also taught. I think the newer generations are taught this, but I wish we're also taught that it's okay to want more, because we're so grounded in the respect for each other that it's almost hindering at times. You sort of shrink yourself sometimes. We're just talking about being uniform and being out. You don't want to seem like you're assertive. I think this is all part of the journey that we're all going through and trying to figure out how to be enough without being too assertive or being perceived as being too assertive, but also not being capped down. That's a really difficult balance for us to navigate through. Where we live now, it's all about get yours, go get it, right? It's all very individualistic, and our families are very communal. So how do you balance the two, I think, is the ongoing, I wouldn't call it struggle. It's just journey, learnings. What do you think?
I think that's what I struggled with
Yeah.
in terms of workplace. Right now, it's still kind of raw. I would sit in like business planning meetings and help with initiating a lot of projects. And it was so difficult for me. And I come home at times and I cry
Yeah.
because it's like, it was so disconnecting because I'm like, I am supposed to be this person that's trying to empower women
Yeah.
to and I almost felt like a fraud at times because
Yes.
it's like, I'm, I'm, I'm not here to be against you. I'm here to help you,
Right.
but it almost felt that way.
Yeah.
And I miss this connection, and I think that's why Deersung is so important to me is
Hmm.
because I have that connection with people, and somehow I can relate to it. And so it was so difficult for me in this position to help like drive a lot of the initiatives.
Right.
And so that was hard, and it made me go, am I being individualistic?
Yeah.
Like, am I like here? And at times I think I shut down because I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to be here, do my work, and leave. But that's
Yeah.
never a great thing, right?
Yeah.
You need to be connected to people. But at the same time, it was so difficult because it's almost like portraying this very assertive person when it's just me trying to be able to, like, we need to make these changes
Yeah.
because it just doesn't seem like it. So that's what's been, you said that and kind of triggered me a little bit.
Yeah. No, but I think it's beautiful that we're connecting this way, because this is the reality of our experience, right? And I mean, I'll use my experience in technology. I didn't see anybody, like myself in those rooms. And it is hard, right, to push yourself through and assert yourself and assert your voice when you are maybe the only woman in there, or you are the only Pacific Islander there, right? A lot of times that's what happened, but it is difficult. And we
Yeah.
don't have another coworker to go talk to, or even anybody within the industry or your work environment to go and say, I understand you. There isn't. And so you silence yourself, right? Because nobody understands you. And then you're like, oh, I don't know. Am I being true to myself? Right. And then you start questioning yourself. Those are real life experiences that we all live through. Sharing that, because that is the truth. And hopefully somebody watching this, within our community will understand and can also relate, because that is what's happening.
I had a great boss, and I think they were all super awesome. There was just something in me that just didn't feel safe, and it created like its different part of me. It's something I'm still going through. Now I'm an overthinker. I think it's also sort of my upbringing because in the Samoan culture, it's almost like you have to behave in a certain way because like you are the malu of the ainga. That's somehow in my core at the back of my head.
Yeah.
And so going through this makes me feel like, man, I just let my family down.
Yeah.
Did I
It's
just
all
let my
part.
community down?
Yes, that's all part of what we carry. There are people who are professionals, right, at talking about this and teaching it and understanding the cultural values versus, like, corporate values and so forth. They've done it for years. We're talking about both of our real experiences in terms of the upbringing and the expectations, right? And then trying to, again, not let your family down, but you want to be an individual, but you still want to be
Yes.
part of the family.
Yeah.
It's so real. It's such a struggle, but, and then going out and trying to be still that very applying respect in the corporate world, it's different. It doesn't work.
Yeah. It's almost like I feel like there are times where I am sitting at my seat and go, this is not who I am. Like our culture, I think especially Pacific Islanders, we value respect at the core of it. I
Yeah.
remember when I was teaching, it's like one of the biggest thing, like my golden rule or your relationship with others is woven by respect. And here
Yes.
I am. I feel like sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? But I don't know if it's me trying to adapt to Western society.
Mhm.
And so I think this is one of the reasons why in terms of conversations it's great to have because I
Yeah.
don't know if maybe I could be the only one who's struggling with it or maybe someone else is struggling with it as well. But I think having that shared experience is a great thing and my experience of course could be different from your experience and what
Yeah.
you had to go through. So,
Yeah, but I think at the core of it, it is the respect thing,
yeah.
which some people may think that it holds us down, right? It doesn't allow us to because we carry guilt maybe
Mhm.
because what we think we're doing might be disrespectful, although you're just trying to grow as an individual. And so that's always a question, right?
Yeah.
Am I being too big? Am I being stepping outside of what I've been taught? And I think that's what we need to be okay with is that it's okay to grow. It's okay to be an individual. As long as you remember your core and it comes back to the respect thing, but you have to grow. Right?
Yeah.
You have to go out there and find ways to improve your lives and your lives of your family. And yeah, you got to do it. Otherwise, it's okay to stay within your community, but it's
Mhm.
also okay. Two things can be right. It's also okay to go out and find your path because we all have God given talents. God gave us this talent to use.
Mhm.
And we need to go find it. And maybe that's why we are sometimes feeling like we're not doing our best at our work because it's not our path that's been given to us. We're sort of fighting against our path, right? And that could be fighting it against being in the work world, and it also could be fighting it being in your family world.
Yep.
But it's okay. We'll find that path.
So far in life, whether it's going to be a positive or not the greatest, there's growth in everything. And I've learned so much in terms of how business works. I think, being given the opportunity to do what I did helped
Yes.
me expand my skills. It also allowed me to know that when I'm going into the next season of my life, what it is that I want and do not want. Realized that more. So, you being also in the corporate world, you have decided that you wanted to now pivot more and be an entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit more about that journey so far?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I was based off being laid off. So my background is in technology marketing, but I've gotten used to having been in that industry for years, that especially working for startup companies, that's what happened. So about 2 years ago, I decided that it was not, maybe it was decided for me just because the market is the way it is now, that it was not really where I want to be, that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to take all the learnings I've had from marketing and do something different. And it feels like this brand was sort of just idea. I never thought I was going to own a brand or apparel company. We just talked about how apparel and brands was not important in my upbringing back in Tonga. So that was never an idea. So I feel like this was shown in terms of like shown as a something that I should go and work on and see if I could help our community and women sort of share this journey in acknowledging each other by just a logo. It's in terms of, I understand what that logo is. So if I was to look at Nike's logo, it's a big company. And maybe it means being able to afford it, or maybe it means something like, I don't know, it's a cool logo. But I don't really identify with Nike. But if I see a logo that's Pacific Islander or a word or a motif, I immediately identify. Right. And I think that's what we're trying to do is like bring our community around some positivity in acknowledging and celebrating our journey and supporting each other on things that we're dealing with individually, like we just talked about.
Yeah. I've been 1099 before. For me, I feel like there's a balance to having a steady income while trying to build your brand,
Yeah.
but you went all in. And so, for a woman out there that's looking to start a business, what is some advice in the early stage of actually creating a business?
So aside from the administrative stuff or financially?
I guess we could do both. If it's both administrative and financially, what to expect would be a good thing. Where
Yeah.
would you think we should start?
So if there's a pool there, then you just have to figure out how to make it work. You can't think about the finance. You can't think about the administrative stuff. You'll learn as you go. And gosh, in a year of having Polygirl, I have grown so much and learned so much about standing up a business or managing finances for a business owner and so forth. But I would say don't be afraid to do it. If you're getting this pull, you just have to figure out. There's always going to be a way. Right.
Yeah.
And I will go back to, I have a very supportive husband, right, who's helping me with a lot of things and with this company in the back end. But I will always go back to, if there is a will, there is a way. God will provide. I swear by that. I live by that. And there's been days where I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And then all of a sudden there's a shining object, right? That just reminds me. There are low days in starting a business. And we may see ourselves online being positive and being the light, pushing our brands or pushing our business or trying to be very positive. But the reality is there are very days that you just are questioning if this thing is going to work. I believe in what we're doing wholeheartedly, but it's the starting of it all is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And so
Yeah.
folks may see it online where, whether you start a brand, start a business, be a content creator, that part is so hard to know that we're out here and why we're doing this. It's hard.
I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel kind of thing where basically we can learn from one another.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's the space that I want to create is just create a network of women that we can come together and just share. And I really do believe that it's not about competition. It's more of the more we share, the more we can grow together. That's
absolutely.
what I truly believe at the core of my being. You were talking about content creation. Can I be real? My purchase of this, for example, because it was a lot of AI generated before.
Yeah.
And so to me, did I just buy this from someone and I probably didn't know for sure? But then, oh, I received it. Oh my gosh, it's actually very nice and warming. Okay, I'll keep it. And then I just went on. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna wear it because I don't know who the brand is. However, when you started going off TikTok and you just talked, I was like, oh my, there's a person behind this. Okay, great. So I don't know about you, but that was sort of my experience.
That is so funny. So my background in marketing is always in the background. So we generate in leads and excitement. We're in a background for our salespeople. That's what it is. And so I was never in the front speaking of, because that's not my job. My job is to generate the business from the back end. And so when we started Polygirl, I told my husband this is going to be a faceless brand. And he argued with me. He said, no, you have to get in front of the camera. And I go, no, that's not how I do marketing. And so sure enough, I've gotten a few of those like feedback early on. And like, who are you? And so I finally worked up the courage just to, start talking about us and who we are. And we really are, just not some random person, outside of the culture who's trying to pretend AI. But although I do use AI for a lot of our marketing, which
I
it's very
think it's a smart
focused.
thing to do.
Thank you. Once I started talking about it and going on, podcasts to explain who we are, then it made more sense to people. Where in the beginning they were just like, "Who are you?" It's funny because we were doing it in the background, and we went to our first Polynesian event. It's like months afterwards, and
Mhm.
they walked up. They're like, "Oh my gosh, that's you guys!" So I'd say 90% of the people who walked up to our little booth like, "Oh my."
Uh-huh.
And so at that very moment, I was convinced I should actually start talking to people and telling them who we are. Because we know a lot of people, they just don't know that we're doing this. So,
That's pretty cool. I
yeah.
do like ChatGPT and Claude to kind of help me write a few things.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
So I use ChatGPT.
Uh-huh.
So our process is we do a lot of design, right? So our business model is print on demand. So what we do
Mhm.
is we have a manufacturer that we work with. We send them all of our designs. And that's the majority of work that I do is like designing. So I get on certain design tools like ChatGPT, Canva, Adobe, Illustrator, right? So all those are used to come up with the designs that we're sending to our print houses and they host it. And so when an order comes in, then they print it and send it to you. Sometimes they make mistakes. And that's the thing that I'm learning here is like they sometimes just don't have the quality of print,
Uh-huh.
depending of which print house it goes to. But and those are things that we're working through. But I do use that, right, to help me with a lot of some of our descriptions on how we certain garments on a website or even some of our emails, or all of it, right? Because I am actually the only person working on it operationally.
Mhm.
David helps me on that back end, but in terms of day to day, it's funny we talk about this. I wake up, I put on my social media hat, And that's from like, I go to the gym and I come back, and like 7 to like 8, I'm like social media person. And then from 8 to like 9 or 10, I'm like customer service person. I switch minds and I'm looking at like the orders are coming in, and maybe some things didn't go right, didn't go wrong, and I have to go deal with that. And like from 10 till about 12, I am designing. So I'm a designer. And then from 12 to like 1, I'm looking at some of the bookkeeping stuff. So it's like I have my day laid out, but it's many hats during the day. So in a small business, as you're trying to start up, that you want to save as much money as possible because it's very costly. It's never been easier. I think now's the time. If you're going to take on and start a new business, you have a lot of tools in place. So, and they're easy to use.
Even though we're trying to build a business, you also have to like brush up in your skills because learning AI is also not an easy thing. There's always something new coming out. The good thing is like, especially with my friends, we're always like sharing with each other. Oh, there's this app here. Oh, this is there's so much happening. And it was like, gosh, it's like always something new. Like I just recently like Tui was just telling me like I put on like with music, my own music out there. I was like, wow,
I
this is
know.
so
I
much
saw
going
that. I
on.
saw somebody was like recording a song.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's my jam, but it's cool that people are doing that. Just you're right. There are a lot. And to the point where you're questioning, like, what's the right one, right? Because there's so many. And
Hmm.
you can get lost in like trying different things. I think that's also a disability for running a business is like you just have to have your core things and stick with it because it's going to change on a daily basis. So you cannot be chasing like shiny objects just because it's a new thing.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, then you're going to end up wasting time. And so instead of dedicating time to wearing the many hats that you wear, you're chasing after learning. For me, that's actually something that I had to work on and to like not pay attention to the new shiny thing because I already have like the app that I need now.
I think the key, right, is not just take whatever AI is giving you and go, just do it. Sometimes I'm spending so much time having to like tell ChatGPT what to do. It just keeps spitting something
Yeah,
else.
I think that's really, really important. Yes, it's cool. Tell me the nearest restaurant. That's easy. But if you're talking about yourself and your business and your experience, you actually have to explain it to it. Right? So I think and I think a lot of people think that like GPT just tells you what to do. No, building a business is like every email that I write, all I'm doing is I'm writing it and I'm telling it to make it sound better. It comes back almost the same. But I can't say, go write me an email about the sweatshirt. It won't. It'll say, hey, there's a maroon sweatshirt with the, polygon on it. It
Yeah.
doesn't have that feeling that I know. So you still have to tell it what to do, but it just enhances your work and it makes it a lot shorter.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's there to help cut back on some time, like editing and things like that. It's definitely going to help you there. But
Yeah.
overall, you have to be the voice of your brand or whatever you are like putting out there. So there
Yes.
is going to be a difference.
Yeah. And then you talked about design earlier too. All the design that we're doing is we're telling it, right, to help us with it, or we're taking it and starting it with maybe an Adobe, tool, or maybe in a Canva, and it helps enhance it, but it does not know how to design like I don't know, hopulea, or it doesn't know to the degree, right, that we
Yeah.
want it.
I think so too. And that's where I was actually going to get into is the idea of design. So in terms of design, um, and fashion, I'm curious, what is your type of style and how does it show up on Polygirl?
Huh. That's funny. So my type of style is pretty casual. And so it shows up in sweatshirts and t-shirts that we are creating. So I would say that would be my style. I would love to own a line of formal clothes one day, but that's
Mhm.
too expensive and I don't have the funding to go out and get a whole bunch of stuff manufactured. I don't have that funding. But my style is definitely I'm casual for the most part. I go to the gym, so I like gym clothes. So sweatshirts and t-shirts, tank tops is really what I live in. And I live in Northern California, so that's what we wear for most of the part. But I'd say it's pretty casual.
I love wearing this to the gym too,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I want to show my pride and this is
Yeah.
exactly unique and different to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love activewear and I know that you definitely work out. Like you also, I think I've seen one of your posts where you ran a marathon and I'm just like, wow, I can't even run for my life right now, but I'd love to try and do a marathon, but I don't even know where to start.
It was not a marathon, but and I don't love running, but it is something that force myself to do once in a while. I do live an active lifestyle. I work out, but I don't run that often. I just happened to run, I think it was only a 5K. So I've done a 5K, 10K. In San Francisco, they have the beta breakers. And so I'm sure some folks have done that too. But really, that's the extent of my running. Never a marathon. Thank you.
To me,
Let's just
it's a
edit that out.
marathon. To me, that's a marathon because I'm like,
That
"Oh,
is so
okay, I
funny.
cannot."
I think, again, being at home, working from home, 5 o'clock in the morning is my social time because that's when I go to the gym. But, after that, it's coming home and wearing many hats and trying to build a business. And that's the extent of my day. It's not really that exciting. You see like the output of a brand. There's a lot behind the scene that people don't see in terms of just grinding away and just sitting in front of your computer and wearing many hats. But it's so much fun.
That's pretty cool. So I can be very rigid. I like sticking to something and going, this needs to be done at this time and this time. You were talking about blocks of your calendar.
Mhm.
And I know things happen, but would you say, are you a type of person that sticks majority of the time to your calendar, or do you eventually just create a block and find yourself doing many other things?
I think it depends on the day. For the most
Mhm.
part, yeah, I have to know what I'm doing because otherwise you get lost. So I enjoy designing the most. I can sit a whole entire weekend and just sit there and design, right? And there are some days, and that's how I procrastinate. But I do write my three main goals out of the day, and a lot of times I'll just get to just the one of those goals or those tasks. But I do have to block it out because otherwise I'll never be able to service my customers when they have an issue or get a post out to let people know that we exist, that I'm actually a real person and not AI, as you mentioned earlier. But if I was to procrastinate, I would just
Mhm.
spend 10 hours designing because it's just so much fun. That's just creative. It's not operational. But yes, I time blocking it's a necessary evil for me. It's just to keep me on track. But I think anybody who is trying to run a small business has to have that discipline because otherwise you're just going to be putting out designs and nobody's going to know who you are, or your customers are going to be suffering because you sent them something that's wrong. And that's happened already, right? In the last year, it's like we've sent them the wrong size, or things don't fit well, or something did not print, right? So those are all the things that I really need to make sure that I actually check first, after I do my social media hat, is to look at my email, cross my fingers that nothing went wrong in the order. But those are part of the learning process.
I love fashion and I love a good design. Like when I was younger, I was like, oh, a fashion designer, that sounds like super amazing. And then I looked into it and I was like, man, apparel is just a lot. There's a lot to do. So I've never wanted to pursue it because of that.
That is
So
hard.
so my hat goes off to you. I think there's like a passion behind it for you. And I think you're just heading to the right direction with it.
Yeah, we talked earlier. There's a path that's sort of like put in front of each person, and so no matter how hard it is, if there is that calling or if there is a pull towards it, you just have to figure out how to do it. And so I think that's where I'm at in terms of my life now. Painful to develop a brand, but it's so satisfying when you do have just the identity and representation that people feel when they see the brand and comments that we're getting back. Oh my, been looking for this because we do have some great brands out there in Pacific Islanders who are mostly male. They have some
Mhm.
streetwear that are specific to the men in our culture, our community, but nothing too feminine. That's not resort wear. Lots of resort wear,
Yeah.
but everyday wear for a woman, I haven't seen it yet, right? And something that speaks to us and our experiences, I haven't seen yet. So the hope is this is where this brand is going, is that you pick something up and you immediately resonate, right? And you immediately identify and you immediately feel proud.
That's the latest fashion, streetwear. Yesterday, we were going to the mall and then
Yeah.
we are going through it, and it's just like, it's the baggy look. It's like the streetwear look. And I feel like it'll resonate a lot with the younger generation.
Yeah.
So I see like that whole 90s vibe coming back. And so that's why I feel like Poly Girl's doing amazing. So we've been talking a lot about the Poly Girl in our conversation, how you were talking about being a market consultant. Is that something you're still wanting to pursue?
Not. Only because this is so time consuming. I love marketing, but I want to market our stuff. So if someone wants to learn and pick my brain about what marketing is, I'm more than happy to share what that is. But in terms of making a living being a marketing consultant, normally it would be, for me, it would be working with technology companies mostly. I don't think so. I think I like building things for us.
Yeah. I know like a lot of women out there are looking to start their businesses, right?
Yeah.
And marketing is so broad. Like there's
Yeah.
so much about marketing. One of the things I do see, for example, people put out like certain things and I want to be supported, but I don't think I could ever like really wear it out because
Yeah.
I worry about trademark or
Yeah.
things like that. I feel like a lot of people I know on social media are really great at I'm learning from them, like all the stay-at-home moms, SHAM. I see it a lot on profiles. So I didn't know until recently. I was like, what it meant. It's like stay-at-home mom. I was like, that's what it means. And so, but they seem to be really good in terms of social media, but there's a lot that goes into branding itself. I feel like that is such a useful thing for our community. It's just because
Yeah.
so many, I don't think there's a lot of people that really specialize like you do.
I always think of my marketing as like marketing technology companies versus helping our community with marketing services. Um, yeah, it's it's a lot. A lot of maybe marketing gurus, and maybe they are, but social media is not the only marketing. So if you think about marketing, is really there's the promotion part of marketing, which I think a lot of people can do easily, and social
Yeah.
media is part of the promotion. Advertising is promotion, but there's also the product part of marketing that a lot of people forget about. There's the pricing part of marketing. There's a whole strategy around marketing that maybe because we watch, 30-second videos or what have you, it feels easy, but there's a lot more to it in terms of building a business. Social media is actually hard. But if your product isn't really up to date, you have to spend a lot of time figuring that out. You have to have a product that people actually want, and you have to
Yeah.
have a story that people can resonate with before you go out and promote it. But there's, if I don't know, I've never thought about that. I guess I should think about that in terms of community service. If there is something that somebody could want help with, more than happy to talk to somebody about that. But it is, I would say, harder say to actually do marketing than maybe the one tactic that a person is doing.
Know your options, what resonates with your branding.
Mhm.
So, the other thing I want to talk about, and I think it's an important thing, is as women, we're always busy doing so many things. And then sometimes we're always busy taking care of other people that we're not really doing the same for ourselves. I know you do go and you work out at the gym. Is there anything else that you do for self care?
Um, mm. So I have a hard time sleeping at night. Like I just wake up, right? And
Yeah.
so, and again, because I'm, in this new business, it's like I wake up and I immediately think about, well, my gosh, what can I do? Right. I mean, and before when I was working and I'd wake up stressing about work, it was stress. Now it's more like the creative hours. I can't shut my brain off. And so then that's part of the reason why I feel like I need to go to the gym because I just need to let that energy go. But I do believe that meditation is important, right? Whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes a day. I think it's very, very important. And we talked about grounding ourselves, going outside and stepping on the ground, and all things that like take you back to your childhood that you didn't appreciate or you didn't think much of. But when you're running around barefoot in the islands, you're really literally grounded the whole entire time.
Meditation is great. For myself, it's just like a simple prayer. I used to wake up and just do like a 15-minute devotion for myself, and then I'll be like good for the day. I also don't sleep so well, and I realize it's probably just because I'm getting older. So sometimes it feels like insomnia or something, but I'm trying to do my best. Got one of those eye massagers to kind of like lay there and just like
What is that?
hopefully an eye massager. My gosh, I love it. It's like an eye mask. There's warm compressions on it. It just massages around your eyes. So,
Does it help you sleep and does it ever turn off?
yeah, you can actually have it as a timer to turn it off if you want to. There's different
I'll have
modes. I think everything's on Amazon these days.
yeah, I'll have to figure out what that is. But yeah, right now I'm just figuring out ways to help me sleep. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm like putting my elbow up and take a little 10-minute nap and I wake up, my arms frozen, but I try to figure out how to like relax really and get myself into a space where I can actually sleep, but it's hard.
Have you ever done a sound bath before?
No, I
You
have
should
not, but
try.
I've heard
Yeah.
many great things about it. Have you done it?
Yes, I enjoy sound bath.
Do you fall asleep?
I find myself like dozing in and out, in and out. Like I enjoy it. Some people find it like difficult because the vibrations are might be too high. It just depends on where you're in the room and what you are like. But I don't care. I really enjoy vibrations, so
Yes.
I love being very close to the bowls.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought everybody gets the same treatment in terms of like the sound waves.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but I didn't know. Well, obviously, I guess if you're closer,
Because
you
you're closer, it's more
yeah.
intense, right? And
Okay.
so I prefer that's for me.
I've talked about it with some friends, but I haven't done it. So I think you've just convinced me to go and try to do it.
I am so into that kind of stuff, so, like
I
sound
used to am
bath.
I.
Huh? Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
and like, floating, I
Floating.
enjoy yeah. I'm sure it's around you. Like there's a few out here on my end where basically it's almost like you're locked into space and there's just water. It's all going to be so dark. If you're claustrophobic, I don't think it's for you, but pretty much you're kind of sitting in there and float in water. But I've always enjoyed that. Even when I was back home in Samoa, like I'll be in the ocean and just like go and like float in the ocean and just reminding myself, okay, just make sure that you don't float all the way out. But enjoy floating.
Is this like a big pool?
It's not I haven't been to a lot of places, but the places it's a bathtub. It's a little bit bigger than a bath, but it's literally you being in this room full and they fill it up with water, salt water too. Basically, even without trying, you're just floating. I
You know what
enjoy
I
things
imagine?
like that.
So do I, but that's a little bit more extreme than mine. So you know what I
Yeah.
imagine when you were talking about that is me going into my bathroom and filling up the water, turning up the
Yeah.
light, and just
Yes,
go
I
to
do
sleep.
yes, like Epsom salt, I love taking bath salt. It's inexpensive too. Because I enjoy that, I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna like this experience." And so at first it's like, "This is so freaking weird," but once you like get over that and like you just kind of quiet your mind and you're not trying to move yourself, cannot sink in that situation. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Is it like a spa?
Yes, it's a spa experience.
All right, I've learned something new today about floating. I've never heard of that. I thought sound baths were new, but I guess it's not. This floating thing is definitely new for me. The other thing that my husband David and I do is we like to go for walks and hikes, and there's lots of beautiful areas up here in Northern California that you can just, go for a little outdoor and back to grounding again, just being able to be with nature. They
I think
call it, what do
that's
they call it
yeah.
in Japan? They call it forest bathing. Mm.
Ooh,
So we talk about like sound bathing, forest bathing, and there's something apparently, but I think everybody feels this, right? And maybe that's a fancy way of calling it, but when you're out in the forest, you feel a certain kind of thing. And maybe it's just letting go or um, just feeling so minute, right, amongst all the trees that you have no choice but to be vulnerable. Because there's nothing to, when you're out in the forest or you're hiking and you're walking, there's nothing else. Like you don't have to prove because nature's got you already. And it is so huge and vast that you have no chance, right, against nature when you're walking. So maybe that's what it is. But I found out later it's called forest bathing.
that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
My previous guest, Billy Phillip, she's amazing. She's up in Washington. She's a life coach, and
Mhm.
she also talks about that. Like one of the things you should do is just step out and just go for a walk.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
she's great. I've done a few sessions with her. She's amazing. I think you would love her too.
I haven't seen the
Uh,
episode, but I'll definitely watch it and maybe I'll some nuggets from there.
So, is there anything that we might have not discussed today?
I feel like we really had a great conversation. It just kind of flowed, right? I mean, we talked about vulnerable moments, but I think it's just, for me, it's the connection, right, with you. And you just mentioned earlier, it's being able to find connections with a group of women we can support. And we have shared experiences, although individual, um, and acknowledging that. I acknowledge your experience when you were going through it by yourself. And I like that you acknowledged my experience, even though I was going through it by myself because talking about that just makes it feel better. I wish, though, in my younger years that I had these conversations with women who were experiencing it by themselves in whatever field that we're in. I think that might have been a missed opportunity. But maybe for our next generation, my kids' generation, it's a different thing for them. They may not feel that way, right? Because they were raised here in America or the US, but I think for their generation or any second generation, it's more finding and feeling like you belong. Ours is like we belong, but how do I take that belonging into this new world? And I
Yeah.
think theirs is I live here I belong to this new world because I was raised here, but how do I make myself more connected and belong to my parents or my grandparents or great grandparents and that beautiful culture that they grew up with, right? So it's an interesting dynamic to see my kids' experience with being Polynesian and my experience. But they all come back together. It comes back to the basics of wanting to understand your heritage and still paying respect to it. So it's two different experiences, but the same.
I think you beautifully said that. I try to have various different guests because I used to teach. I kind of have a younger generation that I still connect with, but I also have older friends
Hmm.
from a different generation, and you see different perspectives,
Yes.
but I feel like we're still marching towards the same things.
I think the kids, or at least the second generation plus, it's more about figuring out their identity in terms of who they are as Pacific Islanders, because that's not what they know, like naturally, right? I mean, yes, they know it because they're in a family in the house of grandparents speaking, their language and so forth, but they live in a world that's completely different than ours, right? Having been in the islands, it's totally different. They're trying to connect back to the islands where we're trying to connect our island ways to here. And so I think that's what it is. Again, not to come back to the brand, but that's what it's trying to do is connect that experience. Like whatever
Yeah.
generation, whatever age you are, there is trying to figure out how to explain that to people and talk about our individual experiences. Yeah, it's interesting.
When I was more in the sales side of it, where it's like, do I sound salesy? But
Yeah.
the truth behind it is like when you're passionate about something, it just comes out naturally. And here I am listening to myself sometimes when I'm talking about your students, like, oh my gosh, that was actually a sales technique. But I wasn't even thinking that. I was more
Right.
thinking like, this is really what I want to do and I really want to
Yes.
do to help people.
Yeah.
So I think it just comes naturally. So I don't know.
They
That was
came out
sort of
natural.
off base.
I think, at least when you were talking to me about it, it definitely came from the heart, right? And so, I
Yeah.
mean, you probably learn how to present it in your career, right? So you
Hmm.
probably felt like you're following the template of how you present it. But
Yes.
obviously, for us outside of that who are hearing it, it came from your heart. So
Yeah.
I encourage you to continue doing it, right? Especially where
Yeah.
you are right now in your journey. We talked about,
Mhm.
impacts. I would encourage you to do it, right? To continue to do it because I think it's important. I'm enjoying this connection. I'm enjoying this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. One thing before we end is because you and I were like, should I call you Alice? Should I call you Stella? But then
Yes.
you should talk a little bit before we end.
Funny because we started out our conversation with like things that like stay with you, experiences I remember coming to the US was one of them was that exactly my name. So my family and even in Tonga, I'm known as Stella. That's my middle name. But when I went to school, my first name is Alice. So it's Alice Stella. It's a Tongan way to say it. And they called me Alice, right, from start. And I didn't know how to say, no, my name is actually Stella. And even like one teacher's like, oh, but I heard your aunt calling you Stella. Should we call you Stella? And I go, no. So I didn't know, right, even then. And it kind of stuck. And so I became Alice outside of the community all the way through work and still now. So now, and that was okay because I could separate it, right? I wasn't like on podcasts or I was either work or home. And if you knew me well enough to come to my home, then you'll know that like people call me Stella. And then eventually you change my name from Alice to Stella.
Mhm.
So now that I'm out in public, I have an identity crisis. I don't know. So I answer to both. Even in my emails now, I'm like, Alice Stella. And then they think that's my last name, that Stella is my last name. For the purpose of Polyglot, I'm Stella. Let me tell you a funny story. When I first met my husband at school, he knew me because I was at school as Alice, right? Because I'm in
Mhm.
school. And then he got to know me and my family and I go by Stella at home. So when he was talking about me at first, and then I'd meet them, like his friends and family, and they'd introduce me as Stella, they'd all ask, like, but who's Alex? Like, I thought your girlfriend's name was Alex. And so, yes, it's been going on. And I thank you for bringing that up. My name is actually Stella. So it's interesting that you asked. I can say it now.
Yes.
But yeah, a little shy. Out of respect, you can call me what you want. And it's stuck. But a
I
lot of islanders have names at home and names away from home, right? Especially if it's
Mhm.
a very islander name that's very long.
Mhm.
You actually shorten
Short.
that
Yes.
for the comfort of others is what I found out. Because I was, call me Alice because it's more comfortable for you. But a lot of people change their names to make others feel comfortable, which I think is wrong. hindsight.
I go through the same thing, but my name is full on Korean, but
Yeah.
still hard for people to pronounce it. Koreans combine their first and middle name together. So it's Nanhi, but my home family call me Nan. People who I grew up with will call me Nan. But when I went to school, it was Nan. So
And
so people come on and be like, is it Nan or Nan or Nanny? Is these like different names?
yeah.
I've learned to embrace it all. My very close friends, their kids call me Auntie Nani. So now I'm just like, okay, I'm Auntie Nani. So yes, so I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm curious. I feel like everyone goes through that. And like
Yeah.
you said, like a lot of Polynesians, I know everyone I know is there's always a short version of their name.
Always the name, right?
Yeah.
But there's also resurgent right now, especially my kids' generation. They're very specific about correcting people.
Yeah.
They're like, no, this is how I say my name, which I love.
Yes, I love that.
Our
Yes.
generation didn't do that. We were more,
No.
whatever you want to call me, it's fine, right? And it's sad, but it was what it was. Yeah. One of my son's names is Toa, but in Samoan it's Toa. But yeah, so he goes by through everything. But in his Tongan family, it's definitely Toa.
Toa.
But in, the Palangi version, sometimes they're like Toa. So he has to correct him to Toa
Okay.
with the apostrophe.
So have I been saying Tonga the wrong way? So it should be Tonga. Anytime
Should
I
be,
start
yeah.
Tonga,
Tonga,
Tonga.
yeah.
Okay. See, I'm learning something because it's just like Samoa, right? Samoa. Everyone
Yeah.
says Samoa. So I'm going to correct myself by saying Tonga.
Well, I
That'll be
think it's
better.
so when you're speaking English, I hear people saying, you know, the T part, which is Tonga, which is,
Uh-huh.
I think it's acceptable. When we talk about Tonga, it's Tonga.
Tonga.
But as long as it's not Tonga,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's a lot different than, but that's, you just have to, people don't know. So you just correct them.
I used my elementary school did a lot of video, and I
Yeah.
remember them saying "bango bango," and they say "pego pego."
See, that's our responsibility now to figure out now how to correct people nicely because people don't know. I did a post about polyglot on non-Pacifica, thinking that it's, polyamory and that pride and being able to proudly wear it and explain and let people see you. Right, when you wear it, so you can explain to them that this is actually a group of people. That's not what we're about. It's actually learning. And so wearing it proudly, right? And inviting the opportunity for people to ask. So that way you can represent ourselves correctly. So I think that's all part of this.
I love it. So, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story and all about Polygirl. I know that you have a lot. I'm excited to see where it goes and where things happen. I love that we're able to connect. I think I just found a new friend and a new person that I can fully connect one on one more and learn from. So, thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us today. Before we close, I just want to say thank you. We reached 300 subscribers at the end of February, and I know in the world of YouTube, that isn't much. But for me, it's 300 people that are choosing to sit in these conversations. There are days where I am just drained and tired. Some days I'm figuring it out as I go, but I'm still here. And thank you for being here with me. If you enjoyed this conversation and you know another Sunga who would enjoy this episode, I hope you'll share it with them. If something resonated, if something made you think or felt familiar, I hope you'll leave a comment because I enjoy engaging with the community. Always open to constructive feedback and ways that I can continue to grow Dear Sunga. March is Women's History Month, and I'm grateful to highlight women like Stella. Stories of culture, leadership, entrepreneurship, identity, and building something meaningful. Next week, we're sitting down with Dr. Iputune Hemaloto, a primary physician out in Hawaii, and her journey into medicine, which wasn't exactly traditional. She shares her extraordinary path and what it truly takes to follow a calling that isn't linear. We also discuss what culturally competent care could look like in our communities. I look forward to welcoming you in the next episode, so stay grounded, stay growing, stay connected with all my elephant mana. Soy fua ma ia manuia.